In a nutshell, it's just to touch on what we do, how we show up, what's the story that we have inside of all of us. When we have that story that leads us into any type of relationship that's brand new with a prospect, how do we navigate that? What are we doing within that framework of having an acronym as some sort of a script that you can follow? How are you mirroring and matching them so that they feel like you're more like them? What's the language that you're using so that they feel empowered about the process? Because you've taken the time to study what you're doing, now you can pay attention to their physiology and see if you need to stop anything or if you're on track. When you can do all of those things and create a relationship out of it with people that you can hang with, that you help them achieve their goals, they start to incorporate their world into your world, and now you have a really cool network, that's never a bad thing. And those things happen naturally, right? Those happen naturally. So I just wanted to go into a little bit of question and answer if you guys have any, but that's what I have for you today, and I really appreciate all of you showing up. So thank you. Is there anything that while I'm here, anybody has any struggles with in their own business that they want to bring up and I can try to address anything right now? Yes?
When you realize that you've hit that point and okay, something went wrong, and you talk about stopping in that moment and realizing that, how do you get it back on track? Do you just do you flat out call it out and like, you don't really, do you want to tell them, hey, I lost you somewhere?
Yes, and you can say it with humor. It's just like something happened, they're like, huh? Like something happened. And put a smile on your face so it's disarming, it's non-threatening. Because what we're worried about as individuals is being called out, but if someone's calling us like, why are you listening to me anymore? Right, we recoil versus you put a smile on your face and you're like, I lost you somewhere, didn't I? And they're like, what are you talking about? I lost you, stop. Just tell me where I lost you. What happened there? Because I was saying something and something happened. Can you tell me what that was? And then you just disarm them because you made it non-threatening for them to open up and engage what was going on. And then they'll tell you. You're like, thank you so much for sharing that with me, and I had no idea I even missed that part. And I'll definitely address that, and I can go back a few blah, 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 and I'll pull this up and we'll do that. Is that what's really important to you? Oh yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes we think we know what's right for them, right? And if we start talking on what's right for them versus what do they want, and that's why I open up my listing or when I'm working with buyers, what are you interested in? What do you want? Because we all want something. We all want to be dealt with in a certain way. But if we're not engaged with that client and we're only telling what we know we think we should be telling because we didn't ask good enough questions, then they're going to get lost. So you have to be able to say, I'm okay stopping this because they're already gone. So if you don't get them back on track, they're lost anyway. So it's like that Hail Mary pass that, they hope they'll accept it. Yes?
Is there any difference selling, let's say, houses versus tech solutions?
So she asked the question, do I see any differences in whether it's selling houses or tech, right? Or solutions or biotech or anything like that. So the reality is a human is still a human, right? And how you make somebody feel is going to be massively important. Because if you have a great solution for them, and whoever you're dealing with, some director, some person that runs part of that, that office, that research field, whatever it is, they still want to be made to feel important. So when you're developing a relationship with them, are you in sciences? Are you biotech? Or what do you do? In software? So when you're dealing with the analytics of whatever that software is going to solve, right? Your company has a solution, but your solution, which is logic-based, it's not emotionally based. So somebody still has to get somebody excited about taking your solution and implementing it and going through the learning curve. So you still have to make people feel excited and that you're going to take care of them through the process, and who are they and what's important to them and what will your service do to transform their business. And when you can get them emotionally connected to what that change is going to do for them, that's why that human connection is still so critical, because logic-based selling doesn't really work. You have to bring an emotional component that drives somebody to say, I want your software. And by the way, I love her. She's amazing. She is going to da-da-da-da-da. And the way she's already taken care of me, you guys, you're going to be floored by what she does for your company. And that's what happens, because everybody has solutions. There's 26,000 real estate agents in San Diego. 26,000. How am I in the top 1%? What am I doing differently? I'm just engaging people on an emotional level, but I'm a professional in my field. I know my field. I can put that on the back burner because I know my field. Now, how do I make you feel like I'm the right person to take care of you? So you always need that emotional component to drive the logic, right? Because software is just logic. It's solving something by ones and zeros. But the emotional connection, nobody can ever put a price on a memory, or happiness, or excitement, or remedying something that's scaring people to death, right? If you can take fear away from a person, now you become a champion. So that's why that component is so critical. Does that answer your question? Are there any other questions while I have all of you engaged? If any of you want to come up to me after this is all done, I look forward to it. I really appreciate all of you attending today. It means the world to me. It makes me research all of this and work to pull out my best. So there's a rating in there. Again, if you guys went to that bit.ly link, I'd love to know how I did in presenting you guys with information, because I'm always learning as well. Yes, Gil?
So you kind of talked about learning self and your industry, and then you can engage so much better because that's very back burner. When you mention vulnerability, do you feel you learned how to be vulnerable in the process after you acquired some other tools, per se? Like,
I believe vulnerability, honestly, it comes from being comfortable being real. So that's why I was talking about that vault in the beginning, because so many of us have these limiting beliefs. And that's why I tried with a raise of hands to get you to say, I'm good with a multi-million-dollar deal, and very few of you, well, almost half the room, did put your hands up, and then everybody put their hands up for your introductory price. And then there's just something along the way that stops us, where all of a sudden we feel like this is not where I should be, I can't do this. But when you just have footing, even telling somebody like that, if I go into a multi-million-dollar listing presentation, they're like, have you ever listed a $10 million house before? I'm like, nope. They're like, so why are you here? What gives you the right to be here? I'm like, because I'm going to take care of you. I know what I'm doing. I just haven't worked in this price point before. No big deal. And if you can be okay saying that to somebody, then you're okay with yourself, and you believe in your abilities. Because some people are afraid of high-value sales because they think there's something different. In reality, a high-value sale is actually easier to do than selling a $200,000 manufactured home. Because that person's done this before. That person has done this before so many times, and they appreciate honesty and professionalism. Where somebody that's maybe never bought a house and the $200,000 manufactured home is their first property ever, they're going to be freaked out, and they're reading everything on every blog post, and they're going to be challenging everything you say, and they want to make sure that they know what's going on, and their mom has something to say about it, and you're just like driven to a cliff that you want to jump off of because it would be easier. So having your own footing in being okay telling people, this is where I'm at, this is real. I mean, there are people that I deal with that just lost their spouses, right? How do you come in there and grieve with them when they have to sell a house? Right, you just have to be okay understanding that human beings are human beings, and you just have to work at that human level. When you know your business, you know your business. But when you can find out where somebody is in their station in life, then you can just be there with them. And that's all we want, right? So that part of it, you just have to have real footing that you believe in and understand yourself, and that you're not faking it, you're being real, right? So, yes?
So role playing, we do some of it, but how often do you think you should do it? Like once a week, once a month, or like what do you?
So did you ever grow up playing sports or anything like that?
I mean, I'm not.
No, but anything that you did at any kind of collegiate level, school, high school?
Practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect. What did you do as far as the sport in school?
Volleyball, singing.
Okay. And how often were you doing that? How often were you practicing?
A couple times a week.
Right, at least, at a bare minimum, right? And that's what's going to keep your sword sharp, right? So for us, it was 5 days a week. I'd be on 3 to 4 days a week. But if you're not engaging in something at least once or twice a week, then the pattern, the rhythm, it won't be there. I don't do role play every day like I used to anymore because I'm making hundreds of calls a day and I've already perfected it over years. But when I was starting out, I had to be there every day because I would be talking like this. I'd be like, yeah, you know, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And the calls, I'd always get feedback. No, content was great, but you need more energy. I'd be like, what? Because we don't even know what we sound like, right? So when you have that feedback more often in the beginning, then it becomes habitual. When it becomes habitual, you know when you're not showing up anymore. So you need to overload yourself with practice in the beginning to make it feel like this is a new normal. This habit is not even a habit anymore. I just do it. I don't even want to call it a habit. It becomes something that's been incorporated into you. So I would say do it as much as you can, so much that it makes you uncomfortable in the beginning, and that you have to find extra time to do it. Because that's the other thing. If you're driven to do some things that you're really uncomfortable with, that's the only way you're going to progress. And so many people, and you can already attest to this, how many people really want to be on the role play calls?
Nobody, usually. Not a lot.
Right? And that's because they're afraid of what they don't know, which is I'm not good enough, somebody's going to tell me I didn't do a good job. People are afraid of feedback. Honestly, people are afraid of their own feedback, which is keeping them out of their own greatness. Because it's only in feedback that you can move forward. Look at anybody that's amazing. They all have coaches. Usain Bolt, the fastest runner in the world. How many coaches does he have? And he's already the fastest human in the planet. So why do those people keep excelling? I'd love to ask you this, Stephen, like, why do people keep engaging you with your coaching services year after year after year, even though they're at the top of their game? Why do they keep you there?
Because when it comes to leadership, you can always be better.
So when it comes to leadership, you can always be better. And this man is obsessive about research all the time. The new books, new techniques, you're always researching. So this is a guy that's always making sure that he's at the top of his game to provide the best services to the people that are already at the top of their game, right? You don't need to keep reading. You've got so much content, you can just keep regurgitating that forever, right? Practices, flows, ways to engage, helping people see something differently, writing the best resume letters that really expresses who they are, right? Taking that content as to, I don't know how I show up. You take all of that and put it out into this letter that's just like, oh my gosh, I need to hire that person. And you have to be engaged to make sure that you're always able to make your clients shine. So even a coach, you're always at these coaching seminars, you're always just furthering your education, and this is someone that's at the top of their game, right? So if you're at the top of your game, how do you stay there? How do you not become obsolete? And it's through training. It's always being there. But you can't just be surrounded by mediocre. And what I mean by that is, if the person that's leading you is just so-so, then you have to ask your organization, how do I get past so-so, right? Because if the team doesn't really feel comfortable with what they've got internally, because everybody talks, then you have to be able to put that on the table in a way that you can let your team know that we need more. We've grown past this. It's like so many companies in here that are startups or tech, they start with their friends or they started with an idea and then they get to a place where now they're blowing up. And they have to actually fire their friends, right? They have to replace them. And what a difficult thing to do. It's just like, you were exceptional in your idea, but we're bigger than you now. And we have to move past you. How do you lay that conversation out? Right, there is a way, but you have to know how. And that's what I mean, like all of this engagement, all of the ways that we actually work with people so that they actually feel comfortable with us, trust what we say. All of these layers that I talk about, I'm deconstructing the shell that we all build around us so that I can engage in people in minutes. There's something I'm going to be teaching. I have a text thread on my phone from a client I engaged not even a week ago that's a multi-million-dollar buyer, and he was only through text, and he wouldn't tell me about any other property. And then I had to I just had to break everything down. And within 24 hours, the guy was just spilling out everything that he wanted. Everything. So you have to know how to have these conversations, and they're so delicate, right? And that's the thing. That's why I'm saying it's so layered. All of this is so delicate, because the same way I mentioned that you can break rapport in a minute, you were nodding your head about what I was talking about with moving past in tech when a company grows or whatever it is, and it just surpasses somebody's limits. Somebody has to say something in a way that that person isn't going to be heartbroken and go kill themselves and you feel responsible for it. Because some people tie their identities to their work as well. So you have to know how to take them on this journey that doesn't crush them. So that's why I like giving these talks and having a little bit of Q&A, because there's so much that's layered into all of this that I have to learn over time. And I'm incessantly learning. I'm always doing these things. I'm teaching at the real estate boards. I'm hyper engaged with learning and having coaches and people pushing my limits, because I wasn't the same a year ago. This is not where I am. And a year from now, I'll be in a different spot. But it's only because I keep pushing myself forward, right? So within your own organization, with the role play calls that you're on, next time you're doing them, take control, right? Say what needs to be said. Elevate it to a different level and see what happens. And let me know, because I'm curious. Any other questions while I have everybody?